Are you here with 3 people? The woman nodded and said, "Yeah, we're here for the game thing." I told her I couldn't let them all inside. That's when her tone changed. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, trying the door handle.
This is your only warning. Turn back now or listen at your own risk. Welcome to Scary Stories You Shouldn't Hear. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more before it's too late. A couple of years ago, I decided to sell an old retro arcade cabinet we had stored in the storage shed behind my aunt's house. It was one of those early 90s machines, nothing ultra rare or museum worthy, but nostalgic enough to be worth a few $100. My cousins and I used to play on it for hours as kids, but it had been collecting dust for years. With my aunt out of town for a week, I figured I'd try to sell it quietly. I didn't want to split the cash if one of my cousins suddenly remembered it existed. So I posted it on Facebook Marketplace, pricing it at $250. Craigslist was out of the question. It always felt like the online version of a dim alley with a flickering streetlight. I got a few offers the next day, but the one that stood out came from a woman named Melissa. No profile pic, just a generic icon. She messaged that she'd take it for $220, no questions asked, and could come by that night. We set a meetup time for 10:30 p.m. at the house. It was later than I liked, but she insisted she worked late and didn't want to miss out. I agreed, mostly out of impatience to get the machine gone before my aunt got home. She messaged at 10:45, saying she had just pulled up. I opened the front door and saw a silver SUV idling in the driveway. What I wasn't ready for was all 4 doors opening and 4 people stepping out. Melissa, presumably, and 3 men. They didn't look like casual buyers. The guys were all tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in dark hoodies, and walking with a kind of quiet purpose. I messaged her back, "Hey, are you here with 3 people?" No response. They came closer, and I called out through the screen door, "You're Melissa?" The woman nodded and said, "Yeah, we're here for the game thing." I told her I couldn't let them all inside. My uncle was asleep upstairs. Total lie, of course. That's when her tone changed. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, trying the door handle. I had it locked, thankfully. One of the guys stepped forward and started knocking, hard. Another began pacing along the front of the house, glancing through the windows. I quickly shut the main door and deadbolted it. That set them off. They started yelling, pounding, ringing the bell over and over. One of the men began screaming curses, calling me a liar, a coward. I crouched behind the door and listened to their footsteps circle the porch for 10 agonizing minutes before they finally left. Or so I thought. Just to be sure, I went upstairs to the guest room window that overlooks the driveway. That's when I saw one of them urinating in the middle of the gravel. Melissa was yelling something up at the house. I couldn't make out what. Then they all piled back into the SUV and drove off, tires kicking up stones. I should have called the cops right then. But I didn't. I tried to sleep. Couldn't. I kept playing the moment over in my head, heart racing. Around 2:15 a.m., I heard the unmistakable sound of glass shattering. I shot out of bed. A window had been broken. Sounded like the one near the back of the house. I froze, phone in hand. I tiptoed to the bedroom door and made sure it was locked. I was about to call 911, but for some reason I hesitated. Till I heard footsteps on the stairs. Fast, heavy. I dialed and whispered everything to the dispatcher while crouching under the bed. I heard drawers being opened, things being knocked over. Whoever they were inside for only about 5 minutes, long enough to take what they could grab. The police didn't arrive until they were long gone. They came through the back, through the shattered mudroom window. Strangely, they hadn't touched the arcade cabinet. I gave the cops everything, the message thread, screenshots, even her Facebook profile. I also told them I'd been threatened. A stretch, maybe, but I needed them to take it seriously. To my surprise, they did. Detectives followed up the next day. They tracked a Facebook account activity and eventually identified the woman as someone living 3 towns over. With a warrant, they searched her apartment and found 6 items from the house. Small electronics, a camera, even a drawer of my aunt's jewelry. She ended up flipping on the 3 men she'd brought with her. All 4 were arrested and charged with burglary. Most of the stolen items were returned, To this day, I wonder what would have happened if I'd let them in. Or if I hadn't locked that door.
A couple years back, I decided it was time to say goodbye to my first car. A beat-up silver hatchback with a gas pedal that groaned like it was being punished every time I pressed it. I'd bought it during my last year of high school in East Ridge, Oregon, and while it had personality, it also had 100 reasons not to keep it. I figured I'd try Facebook Marketplace. I uploaded a few pictures, described it honestly, runs okay, has quirks, but loyal. Within a day, I got a few typical lowball messages. People asking if I'd take half the price or swap it for a rare snake breed. Then this guy named Brent messaged. He said he was local and needed a car fast. His messages were polite, kind of eager, and even complimented how clean the interior looked. We agreed to meet that night in the back lot of a 24-hour hardware store on the edge of town. It wasn't busy at night, but well lit and public enough. He said he'd be off work around 8:15 and could meet by 8:30. It was a cold night, damp, fog rolling in early, but I figured, why not? I showed up a bit early, parked under one of the few working lights, and texted Brent that I was there. No reply. I waited. 8:30 came and went. I texted again, nothing. By 9, I was annoyed and freezing in my hoodie. I'd been ghosted before, but this one felt extra irritating. I left and headed home, driving down the long, empty back roads that curved around the hills. My neighborhood was sleepy, the kind where everyone knows when someone's porch light flickers. As I turned onto my street, headlights suddenly surged behind me, bright, fast, aggressive. I figured someone was in a hurry, but when I turned into my driveway, the car followed, pulling in right behind me. At first I thought maybe it was just a neighbor, but as soon as I turned my wheels slightly to loop around and head back out, the car mirrored me exactly, no hesitation. I couldn't see the driver, just two beams of blinding white light burning into my rear window. A cold rush hit my chest. I had no idea who this was. I thought for one split second, could it be Brent? Maybe he changed his mind? But deep down I knew, no chance. Then the honking started, sharp, rapid, like they were trying to unnerve me. I tried to pull out, but my other car was in the garage and the driveway was too tight. So I cranked the wheel and floored it, barely missing the edge of the house as I tore across the front yard, kicking up wet grass and mud. As I swerved around the mailbox, I caught a glimpse of the other car pulling out fast, keeping up. No doubt about it now, they were following me. I didn't stop to think. I hit the gas and turned into the winding neighborhood behind ours, trying to lose them in the maze of cul-de-sacs and side streets. I took random turns, looped around parks and empty lots, hoping they'd give up. Finally, as I merged onto a busier road near the train station, I realized the car had vanished. No more headlights, no more honking, just the hum of tires and my heart pounding in my throat. I drove around for another 20 minutes to be sure I wasn't being followed, before finally creeping back home. Everything was still. My house looked normal, but I parked 2 streets over and walked home through the alley, just in case. The creepiest part? When I got inside, I pulled out my phone to block Brent, but his profile was gone. Not just deactivated, wiped. No profile pic, no chat history. Total ghost. It was like he used Facebook Marketplace just to lure people out and track their homes. I reported the account. Facebook gave me their standard "we'll look into it" reply, but I knew they wouldn't find anything. Haven't listed a single thing on Marketplace since. About 2 years ago, I tried to sell a top-tier electric longboard I barely used. Sleek, fast, and easily worth the $700 I dropped on it brand new. I posted on Facebook Marketplace, and within an hour my phone was buzzing. One message stood out. The guy was direct, said he was ready to buy now and wanted to see it tonight. Curiously asked how serious he was, and he replied with a casual, "For sure, let's do it." So I agreed. Told him he could check it out at my place. I kept the board in the detached workshop behind our house. Quiet neighborhood, nothing out of the ordinary, just me and my girlfriend living in a modest 2-bedroom near the edge of town. He showed up around 6:30 p.m., right as the sun dipped behind the Rockies. I met him outside. Couldn't remember his name if you paid me now, but I remember thinking he seemed chill. Mid-20s, clean hoodie, jeans, normal.
The longboard was already out, fully charged. I powered it on, showed him how smooth the throttle was, gave a quick demo run across the driveway. The guy nodded, checked it over like he was auditioning to be a skate shop mechanic. Then, out of nowhere, he stepped back and said, "You know what? I'll think on it." I blinked. "Didn't you say you were ready to buy today?" I didn't say it out loud, but I wanted to. Instead, I just nodded and said, "No worries, man." He left. I rolled the board back into the workshop and forgot about it, or so I thought. Around 10:45 p.m., my girlfriend and I were half asleep on the couch, some nature documentary droning in the background. Then, metallic clink. Faint but distinct, like a tool dropped onto cement. I paused the TV. "Did you hear that?" I asked. She nodded. I walked over to the window, peeking past the curtains. Couldn't see anything. It was dark out, and our backyard light had been out for weeks. Then, another sound. Closer, like something scraping against the wall. My stomach knotted. I opened the front door just a crack and listened. That's when I heard the rustling near the fence line beside the workshop. We have these ratty old hedges back there, barely alive, brittle like skeleton fingers. I called out, "Hello? Anyone back there?" Silence. Not even wind. My instinct said go back inside, but my idiot courage kicked in instead. I grabbed the flashlight from the drawer and stepped out, the gravel crunching under my boots. The closer I got to the workshop, the colder it felt. I aimed the flashlight and froze. The side service door, the one that's always locked and never used, was cracked open. A soft creak shifted as the wind caught it. I stepped closer, eased it open, and pointed the light inside. The longboard was still there, but so was something else. In the far left corner, I saw movement, a shadow shifting, rising. Then, stepping slowly into view, a man, tall, hoodie pulled low, and as he stepped forward, I recognized the face. Same guy, the one from earlier. He didn't speak, didn't run, just walked toward me like he'd rehearsed it. I didn't wait. I slammed the door and sprinted for the house. As I reached the porch, I heard his footsteps thundering in the gravel behind me, but not coming after me. He darted the other way. I spun around in time to see him leap the fence and disappear into the woods behind our property. My pulse was in my ears. My girlfriend met me at the door, panicked. I told her everything. We called the cops immediately. While waiting, I dragged the board inside, put it right in the living room, under the ceiling fan. Not pretty, but better than stolen. The cops arrived 15 minutes later, swept the yard, took statements. When I opened the app to show his profile, gone. Poof. Account deleted. No name, no message history. Like he never existed. If you've made it this far, maybe you were meant to hear it. This was Scary Stories You Shouldn't Hear. If these stories found you tonight, let them find you again. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more. If you dare. Subscribe.